Hi, Hannah, Mail here, aspiring Egyptologist seeking funding for a second master's in Egyptology. As an aspiring curator of Egyptian antiquities, I will eventually need a PhD. Unfortunately, though I have done a fair amount of independent schooling and reading on the topic of Egyptology, I don't have the formal schooling necessary to get into a PhD program, hence my funding needs for a second master's. As far back as I can remember, I have just been fascinated with the ancient Egyptians, from their deities, represented by the wonderful figure of the cat goddess Bastet here, to their rulers, both male and female, to mummification, which when a lot of people think of ancient Egypt, that is what comes to mind. This has led to the mistaken impression that the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with death, when that was the opposite of the case. As I said, throughout my lifetime, I've done a fair amount of independent study of ancient Egypt and its culture. And so I'm going to unbox some of the particularly interesting books that I've read this year. This towel is a gift from one of my siblings this past year. And given that it is festooned with Egyptology motifs, I thought it was particularly fitting for the theme of this video. So the books that I'm going to go over, unfortunately, the titles are going to be upside down. I do apologize for that. Try as I might, I could not figure out how to get them right side up. So this first book, its title is Pharaoh's Land and Beyond, Ancient Egypt and Its Neighbors. And it looks at the influences from other cultures that on ancient Egypt and that ancient Egypt had on other cultures as well. And it's a particularly good book because it's written both for the specialist and the non-specialist. And it's a series of essays by different authors that covers most of Egypt's neighbors. So it doesn't just focus on Egypt's encounters with, say, ancient Greece, but that is included among one of these essay anthologies. So this is a wonderful book to kind of get you started on the cross-cultural influences that you see in ancient Egypt from the pre-dynastic period on. We also have this book, and its title is Egyptology, The Missing Millennium, Ancient Egypt in Medieval Arabic Writings. And this looks at something that you also see within the discipline of Egyptology, which is its colonialist and connections with imperialism that were there right from the very beginning. And so this book in particular looks at what medieval Muslim scholars have said about ancient Egypt and some of the strides that they made towards deciphering hieroglyphs before the story of decipherment reached the West and the more famous Champollion and some of the British figures as well. So this is quite an interesting book that looks at something that formal Egyptology has tended to neglect. Lastly, we have this book, which again, I realize that the title is upside down, so I apologize. And the title is Egypt Lost and Found, Explorers and Travelers on the Nile. And what this book does is it looks at the different people that have come to Greece, or that have come to Egypt as travelers and tourists from antiquity on. And one of the wonderful things about this book is that it reproduces a lot of their drawings and etchings in full color. And so it really gives you a sense of a lot of the color and a lot of the magnificence that these monuments had that has been lost to kind of the mass tourism industry. A weakness of this book is it doesn't really dive as deeply into those imperialist and colonialist connections. It kind of just stays on the surface of these travelers and tourist, but it definitely is a visual feast for the eyes. So I hope that this video gave you a sense of what my passions are, and that you learned a little something about ancient Egypt as well. Bye!